And a very good evening to you. This is Newsline Live, and we're broadcasting from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. This evening, we've got a guest here who's the State Minister of Regional Cooperation. Some say he's the Deputy Foreign Minister. He's right here with us, Mr. Tharaka Balasuriya. Very good evening to you, Mr. Balasuriya.
Good evening.
I just wanted to say this to you as part of the questions. It says here, gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. That's gratitude. And in that context, we get a lot of messages from expatriate workers. Particularly today, I personally had 6 telephone calls from people who are desperate to try and get back home. One caller told me that her number is about 4,000, and that she'd been told that she'd be called sometime in the new year. She also told me, I don't know if it's accurate, but that there are about 26,000 waiting to come back. Now, the first caller said she was all right because she's got a job, she's got accommodation, you know, her needs are taken care of, she's got a salary and so on. But there's an increasing number of people who've been laid off. Then in that part of the world, if you don't have a job, your visa's gone off, and then you have to leave. If you don't leave, you're an overstayer, and if you overstay, you pay at the rate of 25 dirhams a day, which is about 1,200 rupees. What is our government doing about it?
I think for us, we are doing the best we can. You know, at the moment we have brought back about 35,000 people.
Right.
And I think the numbers are a little higher than 25. I would think it's about 50 or 55,000 are planning to come back.
Okay.
It's a difficult situation, and it's an unprecedented situation. And anyway, in the history of recent history, has a nation or world has to face a situation such as that, and also I think there are limitations to how many we can bring. The quarantine.
Yes, that's right. What is the limitation?
Well, the limitation, you know, as you are aware that in the recent past that we have not recorded any COVID patients from the community, but rather from the contained centers. So we have quarantine centers of 7,000 available. And then there's also a buffer just in case of an emergency. So we can't exceed that. The quarantine we can't exceed the numbers, the 7,000 numbers. Otherwise, whoever comes from abroad will go into the population, and thus the possibility exists of, you know, the infections.
Right. So
we need to ensure that since Sri Lanka has been COVID-free within the general population, that it remains so. So that those are the limitations, and also we have to weigh between certain options which are difficult choices. We see our neighbor India, how they are coping with a very difficult situation, and I think, you know, maybe in certain countries things might come to a standstill in the future. So we have to take the perspective whether we want to follow that route, or whether we want to expedite bringing the expatriates into Sri Lanka.
Can we not fill these people? I see we read in the press that more and more hotels that are basically empty are now being considered for use as quarantine centers. Can't we? What can the Foreign Ministry do to up the ante and get that going a little bit quicker, so that these people can come and at least go in the quarantine section?
Well, actually, that doesn't come under the purview of the Foreign Ministry, but nonetheless the government is planning on increasing the quarantine centers and also the hotels. But what we want to do is we negotiate with our missions and to ensure that the safe arrival of our Sri Lankan expatriates take place.
And is there some sort of criteria as to who gets on the list first, or is it a first come first serve, or what is it?
No, there is a criteria now. Let's say people who have lost employment and then who are in difficulty are given priority, or let's say people who have secured jobs.
Right. Do we have enough resources to bring them back?
Well, I mean, it's a difficult question, because I think, do we have enough resources to handle the COVID-19 crisis?
But are you in discussions with the government of the UAE and any other government?
Yeah, we have been in discussion with the Middle Eastern governments.
Because of course, if they overstay and they don't pay the money, you tend to get jailed.
Yeah, they did entertain a waiver period. Prior to my coming into the ministry, the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, had spoken with his counterparts in the Middle East, and countries like Dubai, Kuwait, and Qatar, gave us an extended period. Mm-hmm. So I think we are coming to the end of that period also. So we need to again have bilateral talks to see whether we can have an extended period.
Right. If we can move on a little bit and ask you about the other pressing problem, which is of course the information that I think so many companies involved in the construction of the Port City project, which is obviously one of the flagship projects in our country and flagship for us, but they've been put on some sort of blacklist by the Americans. How's that going to affect us and our progress?
I don't think it'll affect drastically our progress. I think it's the United States and especially the Trump administration. I think they had taken a stance such as that before, pertaining to the Allsea, a Swiss company which was doing a pipeline with the Russian government to Germany, and sanctions was imposed on the Swiss company. So maybe it might become something of the norm in the future. But we are studying the situation and seeing what sort of ramifications this might have in the future. And
this is a question from one of our viewers. Thank you very much. Send us your questions by SMS, please. 0772 300 305. Is regional cooperation to do with India, Singapore, Malaysia, etc.? Is this a first-time ministry?
Regional cooperation is mainly to do with the Asian countries.
Right.
And when you say the Asian countries, people's perception is it's mainly India and China.
Right.
But even if you look at a country like Indonesia, there's a population of over 240 million people. Bangladesh has 260 million people. So these, with the disposable income rising in these countries, these countries are also becoming major players in Asia, and then you have the Middle Eastern bloc. So we feel that if you look at our trade balances, we mainly trade with the Western countries. But if you look at the ASEAN nations, their biggest trading partner is China, and China's third biggest trading partner is the ASEAN nations.
Okay.
So I think in future we would want to do more trade with the Asian countries, and that doesn't mean.
Is that made any easier with the announcement that our representative to India will have cabinet status? What does that do to the equation?
Yes, I'm not really sure what from what.
Does it mean that obviously the simplest thing is that India we are giving India some form of recognition.
We have always given India that recognition. India is a regional power, and I think India's security is our concern, and also to be candid, I'm not exactly sure the term the cabinet status refers to.
Right.
But from what I read in the papers, it was also that there'll be the ambassador will have a direct link between the two heads of state.
Right.
And that has been the case, I think, even in the past. We have read in papers, and we have seen in crucial moments.
But the moment is opportune for me to ask you this question. I was saving it for later, but Tharaka Balasuriya, as a relatively youthful politician, taking on your first job as a state minister this time round, and the point I'm trying to make is you've got a big future ahead of you. Now, are you bothered in some way or another that Sri Lanka appears to be selling bits and pieces off? We've got some things gone to China, some things being considered for India, and then we've got something called the MCC lurking in the corner, which may well go the American way. Are you concerned that this country is being sold piecemeal for nothing other than money?
It depends on your definition of sold. I am bothered, or rather we are bothered that if our strategic locations are taken over by other countries.
Yeah.
But as far as foreign investments coming,
it's quite all right to invest, to buy shares in a company that operates the port or part of the port, but to give them a 100-year lease.
Yeah, no, I mean, not just shares. I mean, let's say the land ownership. Okay, now I know this government and also the previous government takes a policy that you can't have absolute ownership of the land for the foreign ownership of the land.
Yeah.
But let's say the opposition, or rather the UMP, made a big hue and cry about the Shangri-La deal. Yeah.
Can I just go back one quick step? With the MCC, it's what, about $480 million?
Yeah.
Surely Sri Lanka is worth more than that.
Absolutely, that's what absolutely. I mean, we don't want to give any of our strategic locations, but we want to develop them. We want to, we don't mind investors coming in and working in partnership with the Sri Lankan government and developing our strategic locations, and also the rest of the country.
Yeah.
But as you correctly mentioned, that we have to be very careful in future.
My concern is heightened. Yeah. Because we have a president and we have a prime minister who've been very pro Sri Lanka in their statements, and so on, and and therefore I am concerned that this MCC, for example, is 480 million.
Yeah.
We don't know whether they're going to accept it or they're not going to accept it. It's like a curve. Sometimes it's a bit of waffle, really. And on the other side, when we come to it, we look at what's happened to the port. That's also strategic, port in Hambantota. And then again, you look at the Colombo port. There's some suggestion about giving it away. But we're giving away our strategic interests, including Matala Airport.
Yeah.
So that's why we're concerned. And I'm hoping that you, as a young politician, will be concerned enough to push for the right thing.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, let's say, you raised a lot of places and a lot of issues. I mean, let's take the MCC, for example. I mean, I don't know, has the government made any statement saying that, they are considering the...
Well, this is the point.
So how would you come to that?
How would you have a specific statement to say, no, we're not having this, we're not going to do this. Sorry, chumps, come back and talk to us on some different terms. That would be, if we had absolute clarity, and that, I think my concern is that there is no absolute clarity.
So in order to reach that, the absolute clarity, certain steps has to be taken, such as, so that's what I think the government did by appointing a committee to submit a report based on the MCC. So then it'll be discussed in Parliament. And
I just want to give you a comparison, okay? I want to give a small comparison. Our group is worth far more than $480 million. And therefore, for us in our group, we were standing by in absolute amazement saying, really, we're going to give a chunk of our country to somebody for $480 million. Our group's worth more than that.
I'm not sure, how you came to the conclusion that we are going to...
Because there's no clarity.
No,
that's why.
Because
we had the former Prime Minister.
If there is no clarity, if we took the same steps which the previous government took, I think I would agree with you saying that there is no clarity. But the steps which this government has taken has been transparent, and there has been plenty of clarity at this juncture. This is the step which we are undertaking. The President appointed a committee to look into the MCC agreement, and then it will be discussed in Parliament, and it will be discussed at the cabinet level. So I think we are
it's in place. We'll come back to you very quickly. We're overrunning for a short break. Don't go away. This is Newsline Live with Tharaka Balasuriya.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. We're in conversation with the virtual Deputy Foreign Minister, Tharaka Balasuriya. Now then, State Minister, I'd like to ask you one other thing about to do with the repatriation, and which is we noticed that the welfare people based at the various embassies, that you are doing away with that. Isn't that spectacularly poor timing now that we've got this repatriation issue?
We are looking at the functionalities of the entire foreign ministry. Certain areas we feel have been meeting the expectations. So we are looking at the functionality of the entire foreign ministry, and I think in future with the restructuring, we will.
You're going to reallocate those duties.
We haven't taken a decision at the moment, but we will be looking at it. We will be looking at it from a different angle.
I see, because obviously that's why I started off with the bit about gratitude. It's no good just saying thank you for the money that they send back. Now's the time they need to be back, and we understand the challenges being faced. But there is a growing. If you remember that the previous government, they made statements like, "Oh, we're going to hold people accountable and prosecute and so on and so forth," and they didn't do anything of the sort. And it was a very people-centric issue. And now, again, this is also a very people-centric issue, where the people really want to come back home. Do you feel that you might be on thin ice here, because people are desperate, they want to get home?
People are. I understand that, but I think people are also very appreciative that we have the lowest mortality rate along with Taiwan and one other country. So we need to look at things in perspective.
Right.
Do we need to rush things, and then do we need to put ourselves in the same footing that our neighboring countries has put themselves in, or do we need to how hard it is, or do we need to follow a realistic plan? And because we have been successful in bringing bringing 35,000 people, so nobody's talking about the 35,000 people that we have.
We're very happy.
Yeah, and so we are working on the rest of the people also.
So what you're saying is patience. Please bear with us.
It is a time of patience, especially given the unprecedented circumstances that which we have to, which we have to face. Certain diplomats came and, met us today, met the Honourable Minister, and I myself participated.
Can I give you a little cheeky thing here?
Yes,
Can I say?
Yeah.
You said. We don't want to rush things. We're doing it at a pace.
Yeah.
But with the Constitution, your rush to change to the Constitution is being gazetted this evening, tonight.
Yeah.
The amendment. Why the rush for that? Why not rush to get all our people back?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I won't. It's been gazetted, and then it will be taken up for a debate in Parliament.
Right.
Okay, so then a due process will be taken. So I mean. At least you have a document to debate on for us now.
There was only
the previous government, they wanted to come up with the new constitution, and nobody ever saw even a draft of it.
But they were busy doing other things.
Well, I must have been, but I mean, so that's what I'm saying. Even with
they were all concentrating their interests on Janadipati Mawatha, where there's a little building quite big called the Central Bank.
Yeah, well, that was at the beginning, but they repeated after a year. But at least we would have hoped that within the final 3 years that they would have got the act together, but they didn't.
Are you preparing yourself for all the Geneva stuff, the UN stuff, the accountability issues and all that business? Because
Yes.
I'm sure you're expecting it to start in earnest now.
We have been talking to our friends and allies, and we'll be talking to foreign parties on the best mechanism on how to align ourselves. But we have been very clear that the Geneva we have withdrawn from the Geneva resolution simply because there was no mandate, and it was unconstitutional. It was not even put to the cabinet. It was not put to the parliament. It was not discussed at the parliament.
But you're not preparing yourself, bracing yourself for what undoubtedly will be brought up with greater intensity than before.
Well, I mean, the UN, we want to stay within the the UN Human Rights Council and work with the member states. I think certain countries have withdrawn from the UN Human Rights Council, and and we don't know, I think certain geopolitical situations also matter, and it's not just about human rights. So I think maybe we are hopeful that we will be able to negotiate our way.
Thank you.
But also we are a country and a government which is which we want to secure the human rights, and
so you're committed to that.
We are committed.
Unfortunately, Tharaka Balasuriya, we've run out of time. It's time for the 9 o'clock news from Newsfirst. Thank you for watching. Take care, and thank you to Tharaka Balasuriya. Good evening and God bless.